Good morning, everyone. I'm Philippe from EPEX. EPEX is the European Power Exchange, handling day-ahead and intraday markets across Europe. And today, first of all, let me thank FutureFlow for inviting us to share our experience, not directly with balancing, but with a different, slightly different topic, which is congestion management. Of course, it's just the other side of the same coin, because the assets participating in both mechanisms are very much the same. But I'm going to focus on congestion management first, because this is the way we tackle this, the question of flexibility, knowing that already from our day ahead and intraday markets, the supply-demand balance over large bidding zones is already to a large extent facilitated by intraday trading at the BRP level. But we tried to tackle the problem of decentralization through the question of congestion management, because congestions are a problem that is growing across Europe with the intermittency, with the capacity, intermittent capacity additions over the last decade. I always quote the 110 gigawatts that we have now in Germany of wind and solar, which is really very much recent capacities added to the system, and I think, to my knowledge, probably in absolute terms, the most important intermittent installed capacity across the world. So this gives us a lot of experience, but it also highlights a lot of challenges that we have to face. For example, the 1.5 billion redispatch cost, which is, of course, has been growing a lot in the past years, and that could grow even wider. So we thought, how can we allow for commercial markets to solve, at least to complement the solutions like grid expansion that can reduce the problem. And this is why, in many extents, FutureFlow and many of the initiatives of EPEX have a common point, which is how can we integrate the verticality of the grid, how can we integrate lower voltage levels into the markets, into day-ahead and intraday markets, but also into congestion management markets. And these are the ones that I'm going to be talking about. But before I go into a brief presentation, because 10 minutes is short, just maybe on the vision side, I would like to remind that, at least from EPEX point of view, we believe very strongly that if we don't manage to involve loads more into the system, not only we will have failed liberalization, but probably we will have a much more unstable system and also unstable market. So it is our duty to all of us to allow for loads to participate more and more into the market. It's a dream that economists have for the 30 or 40 last years, which has not materialized so far, and we hope that with technological breakthroughs, but also with these new markets, we can go closer to the customer and engage them more into the markets and into a reaction to the price signal. So for almost 2 decades now, all of us together, TSOs, regulators, exchanges, market parties, have been working a lot on the horizontal coordination across the different bidding zones in order to allow for an efficient congestion management, and we have done that through market coupling and through the congestion management foreseen in the target model by the EC that has been working very well and expanding year after year. But we have now a new challenge, which is to integrate the verticality of the grid, which is shown by the vertical arrow here. How can we include all these new decentralized assets into the market, into commercial markets? And this is the challenge we have been trying to solve throughout several initiatives. I'm not going to go through them one by one. I have left a few slides in the appendix, just in case you're interested in having a little bit more insight on some of these initiatives. But basically what we're doing is an intermediary. We are not going to make any optimal power flows or optimize any resources at EPEX. What we want is to have supply and demand meet, but not on a large bidding zone level, but at a local level, at nodes level, in order to allow for the market to solve congestions, whether local congestions on the DSO grids or congestions on the TSO grids. So, of course, there is a question of setting up the market, making the liquidity appear, but also coordinating the different voltage levels to make sure that this is an efficient process, efficient for congestion management, potentially also efficient for balancing, because of course this is also a service that is needed from these resources. So the way these projects have been taken taking place is very often through funding programs. For example, the Syntec program in Germany that has funded to a large extent this initiative called ENERA, in which we are part of, and that has been live since February of this year. So what is ENERA doing? Basically, it's setting up local order books not at the node level, but at a portion of the grid. So it could be several nodes on the distribution or the transmission grid that allow to tackle a given congestion, whether on a line or whether on a transformer. What happens is that the resources that want to participate in this voluntary market, because there is absolutely nothing mandatory here, as is the target model that has been chosen across Europe. So the voluntary mechanism starts with certification. Resource owners, whether it's demand response, whether it's power to gas, batteries, or wind farms, or other generation sources, are certified by the connecting system operator, the one at the level at which, the voltage level at which the resource is connected. And once these are certified, they're able to offer the flexibility, which is basically a deviation from a baseline for 15 minutes or for an hour. This deviation from the baseline can be an injection or a withdrawal of energy at a given node on the grid. The grid, it can be the distribution grid, or it can be the transmission grid. Once these assets are certified, they can post bids in the local order book, and these offers can be lifted, can be activated by the system operators, who are the buyers of this flexibility. So both the DSOs and the TSOs can activate flexibility at, so for example, at either for the low voltage level, medium voltage level, or for the TSO, of course, the high voltage level. And of course, there is a verification procedure to make sure that what has been promised in the order book has been indeed delivered. And by doing so, we can allow for the market to solve congestion by injecting and withdrawing energy at given portions, at given points of the grid. This was the major point, but of course we can see this problem from the higher voltage levels, but we can see it also from the very low voltage levels. This is not just about creating the economic conditions, the economic space for people to trade. It is also by empowering the different participants in the market, especially the new ones, to be able to participate. And this is a different side. This is a different side of the coin. It's again not about setting the marketplace, but really allowing for these decentralized players to participate. And we have several experiments that are currently ongoing. One is with a company called LO3 that's based in Brooklyn, but there are, of course, there is absolutely no exclusivity. We as a market need to be neutral and open to all kinds of participants. So this is just one example of how we can connect the microgrid to the market, be it the wholesale, be it the day ahead, intraday market, or even the local flexibility market for congestion management purposes. And there the question, the challenge is more a commercial challenge and a technical challenge. How can we create the economic and the commercial conditions by limiting barriers to entry for the access of smaller market parties into the wholesale markets and the various types of wholesale markets, because we do believe that this is where a lot of the flexibility will come from. So we're tackling the problem not only from, again, the grid perspective, but also very low from the consumer itself. Actually, we don't believe that residential consumers will connect directly as such in the next few years on the wholesale market. That seems to be a bit science fiction, but we can rely on the aggregators, we can rely on our customers, be it the utilities, be it the suppliers, be it the trading companies, to aggregate and to disaggregate, of course, depending on the needs of the grid, be it a balancing need for supply equals demand over a large bidding zone, or a very localized need into either the distribution or transmission grid. With that, I'm going to stop, because I could go on like that for an hour. I don't think that's the deal we have, so I'm going to stop here.
Philippe, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Philippe.